Last in, first out is a great technique for tax as well. GST was introduced last, but we finished it first. Now the next step after finishing GST is DT. You will have some part of the 6th of May, 7th and 8th are completely yours to do DT, but let's not get complacent. Here are my 3 good steps to revise DT excellently well. First, watch the revision video. That revision videos will help you because chapters can get big, especially chapters like PGBP, capital gain, TDS can get big. So watch my revision videos and you'll get a great understanding of what the chapters are. Second, while you watch the revision videos, stop the videos and look at the handwritten notes. Very important to get well versed with the shortcuts because they'll be very useful in the exam. And third, again, bearing chapter, which is the first chapter, you have to practice one sum per chapter because we have the time for that. Even 2.5 days will give us a good amount of time to practice one sum from each chapter. Now let's see how you put the chapters and how do you revise. So the first day, that is the 6th of May for DT preparation, the first thing you will start off with introduction to DT. You know how to revise that, it's not really important. Then move on to IFHP. In IFHP, it's a great chapter, but you have to be careful about a couple of things. I'll just tell you what you need to be careful about in IFHP. So in IFHP, interest calculation, the PCP interest you should know. The SOP interest in the new scheme, now you don't get deduction of SOP interest, you should know that. And deemed ownership concept, don't get into too much detail. A house which is divided like SOP, LOP, that concept you should know. These are some things that you should know from the IFHP chapter. Next, look at exempt income. Exempt income, agriculture income is important. Share of loss or profit from a partnership firm, that is important. 1010D, that life insurance receipts, that is very important because now they have a new amendment there that not just low premium, even the premium should be up to 5 lakhs for policies taken on or after 1st April 2023. That and 10AA, that is awesome area, that is also something that you should know really well. Composite income, tea, coffee, rubber, that you should know really well. Then we move on to the next chapter, which is residential status and scope of income. Residential status, you should know deemed resident really well. Especially Indian income should be more than 15 lakh, that calculation you should know really well. Remittance is to be ignored, past years to be ignored, and deemed income ISSD, IRF, that you should know really well. Next, scope of income, of course, DIR plus 1, that you should know really well. In IFOS, take care of gift tax, even more take care of benefit tax. As IB, if anything which is inadequate you receive, you have to check the benefit that you watch out for that. I'm going for some details because I want you to be careful in DT about these details. Then in dividend tax, 222E is the section that you should be careful about. Interest on compulsory acquisition is also something that you should know, and casual income is also something that you should know well about. Next, we move on to PGBP. For most people, PGBP is difficult because they try and focus on the sections. No, don't focus on the sections. I have a video, top 100 sections for DT. You can watch that and revise that. PGBP, first revise the entire thing, but look at it from an exam perspective because in the exam they give you a P&L account and you have to base your sum from the P&L perspective. I have a video on how to solve that question number 1. You can go through that. Be careful about depreciation, additional depreciation, disallowances when money is paid in cash. 43B is now very important because that MSME thing is something that you should know about. Then TDS, if it's not deducted, then 30% will be disallowed. And now guys, audit and presumptive tax become very important because now they have new limits. First, check the limit which is applicable and then check the turnover. Example, if I do too much of cash, then my limit is 1 crore and then check my turnover. The shortcut is LT. I've discussed all that in the revision videos. Next, clubbing of income is absolutely smashing chapter because it is very often found in the exam. Look at minor son and look at spouse very in detail. Then first compute and then club, those things you should know. Set off and carry forward is great, but remember in the new scheme now, you cannot carry forward, you cannot take forward house property laws outside. So house property is now non-friendly. Capital gains is a huge animal, but if you watch my revision video, it will become really nice. ATPSC is something that you should know well. Sections 54, that series of exemption you should know well. There is an amendment there that 54 and 54F can now be used only up to 10 crores. The tax rates you should know in capital gains, slum sale, Arun Jaitley cost, and old fashioned, that is asset bought before 1/4/2001, should be known really well. Next is salary. In salaries guys, avoid going into too much detail. So this is what you should finish on day 1. I'll tell you tomorrow, that is 6th of May, what you should be doing. Start with the first chapter, do exempt income, do residential status, scope of income, and do IFOS, 4 chapters and end it. Sleep well. Next morning, start with PGBP, then do clubbing of income, then do set off, then have your lunch. Then move on to capital gain and salary. Now in salary guys, don't get into too much detail, just do SAP and SEP really well. Know your salaries, know that every amount going from the master to the slave or going from the employer to the employee is always taxable. That is something you should know. Next, in the evening, that is on the 7th evening, you should try and do the deductions. Deductions have a lot of shortcuts. Watch the video and benefit from that video. After that is the TDS chapter. While TDS is really important, I'll tell you the sections that are new and hence more important from an exam perspective. 194P for pension, 194BA for betting apps now like Dream 11, etc. 194S speculation, that is crypto. 194Q is always important, and these are some sections that you should be careful about. In TCS now, starting with 1st October, 206C1G, that global where you send money abroad, on that the TCS rates have changed, so be careful about that. But I have a feeling that the new rates will come taken. But remember, only if it's for education the rate is still old, otherwise the TCS rates have increased to 20%. Watch that carefully and do that really well. And next comes return of income. Do that chapter fully because that chapter is always in the exam. Next, rates of tax, guys. Default tax system, which is also the new tax system, you should know really well. I have a video on rates of tax as well. Watch that video and understand rates of tax in more detail and well. Guys, ultimately these are the top 5 questions that will be asked in the exam. My prediction for DATE exam, here we go. First, TDS sum will always be there for about 6 to 7 marks. So that's in question number 2 or 3. TDS, that chapter you should know really well. Second, return of income, a very small chapter but gives you 4 or 5 marks every time. So that is second. So that totals up to about 11-12 marks on prediction list. Third, set off and carry forward between 5 and 7 marks. That chapter will be there. So that gets us to about 16 to 17 marks. Next, fourth, PGBP. In the first sum, PGBP will always be there for about 5 to 7 marks. So that gets us to about 24 marks. And 5, rates of tax. You should know the default tax system well and the old tax system well. So these are 5 things that will get you almost about 28 marks on the prediction list. This is something that is always there in the exam. Prepare yourself well. Clubbing of income is sometimes asked, and I've seen lately that chapter has been asked a lot. Salary is also asked, but guys, in salaries, don't get into retirement benefits. They don't ask that. Go into SAP and SEP and finish it off well. Now, the day you get of the 8th, one day before the exam, if you get some extra time after doing these chapters, then spend that time looking at different MCQs. But remember, don't try something new. These 3.5 days are for preparing and for doing what you know well instead of doing something absolutely new. All the best. If you have any queries, do WhatsApp and I will reply back. All the best and see you after the exams.